Yikes. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
All right, Bev, how are you?
If I tell you, you would put me on vacation for 2 years.
Okay, let me do that. Can I do that for you? I'd love to help you out.
Oh my goodness, I don't like working from home, Jenny. I need to go back to my office.
I hear you, yes. Okay.
My internet is unstable, so I can't show my video. I'm gonna
It's
disconnect from my VPN.
It's okay. I'm gonna start, I'll show my video for a little while people are coming in. So yeah, no, I tell you what, these scheduling these calls is just gonna be the death of me.
You know how long it took me to try to schedule them?
Oh my gosh. Well, so yeah, and I'm, trying to do these, offer people the combinations, which I think is helpful, but it's really a brain sizzler for me because I have to look to see if you've signed up somewhere else or, like who has what overlapping with Precious. It's crazy.
Yeah, and a lot of our work that is expected and required from you has not been done. I don't think Lori P has done my best stuff because of us being in COVID and trying to, the challenges that faculty and students is so time consuming.
Yes.
And the way in which they are not holding their classes appropriately and students coming to Zoom meetings dressed inappropriately and words just different. And so we're spending a lot of time trying to put, educate and provide. I was just looking at this mental health one from the Chronicle of Higher Education to assist because staff, in fact, it's just a process that we're trying to, maintain.
Yeah, no, I understand.
All right, so you got visitors coming in. Thanks for the conversation.
Thanks for the chat, Bev. Yeah, good to connect.
Hey, Katie.
Hi, Hannah.
Hey.
So Hannah, I joined your slides to my short presentation, so I'll run them from here if that's okay.
I think that's fine. Amy's going to be taking the lead for us.
Okay, super. Then I'll ask her when she comes in if that's okay.
I'm sure it's fine.
I don't know, when you try to follow all this with one eye on what's happening in the national news, I think it's also contributing to the feeling that like the world is coming apart at the seams.
It's something. It's been a crazy couple days.
Yes.
Some good news. I have just been selected as Administrator of the Year from the National Association of Student Success Michigan chapter.
That's fantastic.
Wow. I was so shocked. I was
amazing.
I've been crying all morning.
Aw, that's wonderful, Bev. Thank you. Hey, send me a copy of the announcement and I'll make sure that we get it in our board report.
Absolutely. I will send it to you right now.
Thank you. Hi, Amy and Serena.
Hi.
Hey, Amy, Hannah says you're taking the lead. I have joined your slides to a short slide presentation of mine. And so I'll just run them from here and let you talk if that's okay.
Great. And do the mentors have the call protocol that we had created?
They don't have the call protocol, the whole call. That would have been a good idea. I sent them the SOAA form.
Okay.
But in fact, I'll send that to them right now. I forgot about that.
That's okay.
That's all right. Okay. Katie, are you able to admit people to the meeting while I go find that and send it?
I think so. Am I a co-host?
You are a co-host.
Will it give me a buzz if I need to admit someone?
You watch to the bottom and it'll say someone's meeting, or open your participant list.
Got it. And it'll tell me if I need to approve
It
anyone.
says somebody's waiting and it has
Okay.
a little admit button. It's pretty easy. This will not take very long.
No worries. I'll be on the lookout. Oh, I have one
Okay.
waiting.
There
Going
you
right now.
go. You can do it. All right, cool.
Learning new skills every day. I love it.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, everyone, the call protocol is coming out to you along with another copy of everything I already sent you, so. Cool. All right. This is a large group and I should have done registration for this meeting because then I'd know who was going to be coming and who wasn't, but I didn't anticipate that. But it is, we'll give it like another 2 minutes to see if other people are jumping in. This is one of those days where I just feel like I'm trying to drive my car in the sand. People appreciate that image, especially Sean, who also lives here, that like, you know, it's just the wheels are spinning, but nothing is moving. All right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to continue to watch for people to show up.
I'll watch too, Jenny, now that I know how.
Thanks, Katie. Great. All right, so good afternoon. And thank you for being with us for this overview of SOAA validation calls. I think I know most of you, maybe a couple of our guests from CCRC haven't met before, Amy and Serena, but they're kind of known to each other. I'm going to go ahead and ask people to go ahead to introduce themselves, say where you're from, and just a little bit. You are so go ahead, and I'm going to start with Lindsay because you're first on my film strip here.
Great. Hi there, everyone. I'm Lindsay Dickinson. I'm at Northwestern Michigan College in Traverse City. And I think this is my second year of being a mentor. And I owe Jenny a SOA for this year. Sorry, Jenny.
Yes, you do. That's right.
MC started registration last week for spring, so we're a bit on the back foot.
That's nuts. Yeah.
It is nuts. Our students think it's nuts too.
Amy.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy Brown. I'm a researcher at CCRC and I'm joined by two colleagues, Hannah and Serena.
Serena, you're next.
Hi everyone, I'm Serena Plumpton, also from CCRC, and happy to be here today, so thank you.
Welcome. Katie, you're up.
Hi, I'm Jenny's colleague, Katie, at the Michigan Center for Student Success, and I'm moving into a brand new role called Manager of Network Engagement. I think we're still ironing out what that means, but one of my tasks that I will enjoy is getting to work with our mentors and supporting their efforts, and of course, all of Jenny's efforts as well. And I'll apologize for the dog, the kids, and the laundry in the background. It's a Monday.
We don't see the laundry, Katie.
Yeah, you should hear it. It's very loud. We went camping this weekend, and camping's so fun until you come back and you have to do all the laundry.
Mm-hmm. All right. Bev, you're next.
Good afternoon, everyone, and please forgive my lack of video. My internet is unstable, and you can hear me better, hopefully, without it. I am the Dean of College Readiness at Oakland Community College, and I have been participating in the mentoring program since the inception. I look forward to the work we're doing.
Great. Hannah.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah Lar, researcher at CCRC. I work closely with Serena and Amy. We're also on the call.
Jeremy.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremy Belanger. I'm the Executive Director of Transfer and Student Advising at Bay College up in the UP. And Lindsay, our priority registration started today. So I had nothing else to do, so I thought I would join the Zoom meeting.
Welcome to the crazy, Jeremy.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Sam.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sam Bazzi. I'm from Henry Ford College, Dearborn, Michigan, mathematics instructor. This is my first semester as a mentor, so I'm learning from the experts here. It's a great learning experience so far.
Thanks, Sam. Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean Neumiller. I'm chair of English and Transitional Reading and Writing at Lake Michigan College and English faculty. This is also my first term serving as a mentor. And we're not registering for spring yet, but I did get final round of spring schedule today that I have to proofread. So there's that.
Happy to provide a distraction. Okay, let's see. Sheila.
Hi everyone, I'm Sheila Jones from Grand Rapids Community College, where I serve as Dean of Instructional Support, and this is also my first semester as a mentor. Thank you.
Great. Lewis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Lewis Thomas, Director, Kalamazoo Valley Accelerated Associate Program. First semester as a mentor, so much like Sam, just looking forward to learning from you all. Thank you.
Great. Nathan.
Hey, this is Nathan Vensky from Jackson College. I'm the Associate Dean of Student Services. I, like Katie, went camping this weekend, so I feel her pain with all the laundry and everything, and I don't know how we packed all that stuff to go, but I feel what you're going through, Katie. It's nice to be here, everybody.
And Paige.
Hi, I'm Paige Egan, Kalamazoo Valley Community College Provost and Vice President of Instruction and Student Services.
Fantastic. Welcome. What a fantastic group of people. And like, I've just enjoyed listening to you all introduce yourselves so much because, you know, I'm easily stimulated. But thank you for being here with us today to talk about SOAA calls. I want to give you a quick overview and purpose of this call. Oops. Katie, someone's waiting. I bet you let them in already. Or maybe that's a chat.
It was me chatting, telling them I love them.
Well, okay. Don't distract me like that, Katie. I can't see.
Clearly unhelpful all around. I'm really good at texting Jenny right when she starts talking during like big meetings, and I'll be saying something not related at all, which is totally unhelpful. So I'm sorry, Jenny.
It's not. Yeah, actually, you are always helpful, and I have turned my video off because I got a report from Katie that my audio was garbled. So I'm hoping that this will improve it. But the purpose of this call is we have, at the Center for Student Success, we have been spending a lot of energy on adopting the scale of adoption self-assessment from CCRC for our guided pathways work. And I think that everybody on this call has probably had some experience with the guided pathways scale of adoption self-assessment, or if not, with one of the two new self-assessments, the developmental education practices, SOAA, or the financial stability SOAA. And if you didn't have a chance yet to go to our publications page and read the evaluation of our Guided Pathways Institute from our evaluator, Don Coleman, you know, some among you just don't, you know, turn to each other and point your fingers, said you actually like it. you like doing the scale of adoption self-assessment, and you find it helpful and useful. And so we are so excited that you like it, that we keep inventing new ones. And one of the great things about the self-assessment is this idea that we do these validation calls with the group after you fill out the form. Then you are contacted by someone from the Center for Student Success to schedule a call and spend 60 to 90 minutes roughly, usually, talking through what you've said on the form. And that really helps for us to understand what's going on the campuses and keep in touch. Hopefully for you to clarify what you are doing and understand, and then it helps us because we will then put together a publication or some information that aggregates the information so you can see what each other are doing. And this year, what we're doing with the new wrinkle is, in addition to adding a couple of new instruments, we are adding mentors to the validation calls to help to get the mentors connected to the work that's going on the campuses, to introduce the colleges to you all as mentors, and to get a chance for the mentors to see what your goals are, because then we will be going back and kind of following up as having mentors follow up with colleges to check in on their goals in the next several months. So that's the purpose of this. So, and then then CCRC has been working on their protocol and has offered to have us work with them as they kind of roll out this new protocol and the way in which they like to see people conducting these calls. So I thought it would be a great chance for us to talk with them, hear what from their perspective, how they think the calls should work, take some questions, and then we'll contextualize a little bit more with the developmental education and financial stability scale of adoption assessment. Any questions at this point about why we're here? Okay, not seeing or hearing anything. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to CCRC. And if you just tell me when to advance the slides, Amy, that would be great.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jenny. As many of you know, we've been working with Michigan for some time, and Hannah most closely, but our Guided Pathways team in general has been working with Michigan as you all work on implementing Guided Pathways at your respective institutions and across the system. And so we work with Michigan, but we work with a number of other states as well. And so we've been rolling out various iterations of the scale of adoption and conducting calls of varying lengths. We've conducted 30 or 45-minute calls sometimes, up to even 2-hour-long calls that have a stronger equity emphasis in the questions. And so we've done a range, and it's a continuous improvement process, and by no means have we mastered that process, partially because it looks so different at so many different colleges. There are these principles that inform what happens on the ground, but we're really trying to improve our own process for getting better at learning what we are interested to learn for various different projects. So we developed a protocol to share with you all that Jenny sent out just a few minutes ago. So you'll have a chance to look at that more closely later on, but you're welcome to reference it while I'm talking. But basically the protocol that we sent over is 8 pages long, which is pretty long, and it includes other materials in those 8 pages. It's not 8 pages of straight protocol, but we have some sample language that you might use for an introduction. We have the 4 practice areas, and we've organized questions for the calls by essential by practice areas rather than by each of the numbered practices. And so we have kind of like questions that are focused on onboarding, on educational planning, on progress monitoring, on plans, on learning across programs, these kind of bigger bucket areas. And so we've structured it in a way that you can, in advance of the call, look at the college's website, look at what they've submitted on their scale of adoption itself to kind of try to assess to the best you can a baseline of where they are and what you're able to ask further questions about. If they said they implemented a particular, like if they implemented a part of the ALT model in their English department, you know that they've done some developmental education reforms and you'd want to learn more about that. And so we have some language of kind of like, if yes, if no, to proceed down different sets of questions. And in addition, there's information about tips to discussing ratings, pre-call tasks, and an appendix that includes indicators to assess quality of implementation. And so I'll walk through some of those in these slides, but it's a very comprehensive document, and we would not anticipate that anyone would ask every single question in that document. It's the type of document that we hope folks are editing to their purposes, and we'll get into that here. So Jenny, if you want to go to the next one, that would be great. Thanks. So
is there animation? Should I be doing it in slideshow view?
No animation, no. This is great. I'll just read some of the ones that are in lighter font, but this first slide is really emphasizing that when you go into a call, and whether you're going in as the person leading the call or you're going in as a person listening in to hear, you want to think about what you're interested in learning and tailoring either your questions or your comments toward that purpose. And so these are just a few questions of areas that you may, either as individuals or as a system, be interested in exploring further. They're sort of like research questions, but not that formal. So we have, to what extent have staff and faculty been involved in guided pathways planning and implementation? Do staff and faculty see connections between the Center for Student Success's initiatives, the college's priorities, equity issues in their departments, and these reforms? And think about, you could go through their scale of adoption with an emphasis on the student experience. So you could say, okay, you've made all of these changes to college practice. What does it look like for students? How is their experience different? There's a question about to what extent do staff see guided pathways changes altering their role, practices, and or responsibilities? And so how is their job substantively different because of broader changes happening at the institution? And then you may go in and be interested in what challenges colleges are experiencing and where they need support. And so that can be an opportunity for the center to gather data on what you'd like to do in subsequent trainings and supports.
Yep, and that would be certainly a big area of emphasis for us at the center, is this idea about what are they experiencing, where are they experiencing challenge, and where can we provide support. So I would probably say that would be our number one purpose. And then the second one is kind of a combination of all of these in terms of helping colleges better understand what's going on their campuses. And sometimes I can see that different teams will come into this and they will have a different purpose for how they use the SOAA. So that's kind of one of the interesting dynamics that can happen during the calls. So sorry to interrupt.
No, that's great. Thank you, Jenny. And the one other thing is that when you're thinking about what your purpose is, you want to think about who would you need to speak to really learn about that particular area. And so if you're thinking about who would have the best vantage point about what overall challenges the college is experiencing related to this. And maybe you need to speak with folks who are more on the ground to get a sense of that, or maybe you need to speak to someone who's coordinating the efforts. And so this informs who you're going to speak with, what questions you're going to ask, where you're going to emphasize. All right. And so this is in reference to what I was speaking about earlier. The protocol itself is very long, and you may be having hour-and-a-half long calls. Colleges may be, these times are very uncertain and things can come up for colleges. And so we've certainly experienced this. Sometimes we get on the call and we really, the person is only available for a half hour. And so you have to kind of shift the protocol so that you can respond to the availability that they have. And so this, in some ways, like I said, we wrote if yes and if no in the protocol, so it can kind of be like a choose your own adventure process of moving through it, and you'll leave some parts out and emphasize some other parts. And head to the, thank you. This is, so as you likely all know, and this, you see this in the other scale of adoptions for your other emphasis areas that the center is working with, that there's ratings that the colleges are using predominantly for self-assessment purposes to determine for themselves how far along they are toward implementing a given practice. And so when you're carrying out the calls or listening during the calls, you can think about, as related to your purpose, overall, what role are the ratings playing? And so if you're interested in focusing on planning, the ratings may not have a whole lot of importance. It may help them identify areas that they need to work on more, but the difference between planning and scaling may not really make a whole lot of difference for that emphasis. And if colleges are really using the ratings to track their own progress, you may be more interested in their overall process with which, like, to try to figure out how are you determining what your rating is, and then how does that rating support your overall implementation. We find that the ratings aren't necessarily, for many colleges, that type of differentiation isn't that important for many colleges. It's more the substance of what they're implementing, and but for some people, the ratings can be an important scale. And then toward the last point, if you want to compare institutions based on implementation, we have to do this for various projects, usually because funders want to measure in a particular way. The scale of adoption wasn't designed as an evaluative tool. It was designed as a self-assessment, as Jenny has been emphasizing. So the reality is the colleges don't have necessarily enough information to about what a rating means to really give an accurate measurement for comparison purposes. And so you may, if you want to use some sort of tool for evaluation, you may need to use a survey that asks what % of students are affected by X practice, more in that type of format.
Yeah, and just to kind of follow up on that a little bit, as you've seen in our reports, we do use the ratings kind of to indicate how kind of really crudely how many colleges view themselves in various areas, which has been helpful for us with our funders and helpful, I think, for you all. But yeah, it's sometimes you get on the call and you have colleges who want to, you know, they want to say that they've done everything, and so they want to say that they're at scale, and they don't want to admit that they're haven't followed through on a particular practice. And it's helpful to say, you know what, this is not a compliance instrument, really. We really hope that you'll use it in a way that's valuable to you, more so than focusing on like, how well did you do, or did you advance from last time? Because sometimes people find that actually they back up in terms of understanding what the practice is and decide that they're not quite as far along as they said last time. It's, you know, the ratings are kind of an interesting animal.
Yeah, and Jenny, in that report, the one that Dawn wrote, I thought that it was interesting that people talked about how it was useful to bring people together to kind of talk about where you're making progress, to bring more people into the conversation. So yeah, I think it's, and that's kind of how it was envisioned in the, you know, the beginning, as being a tool for that, for those purposes.
Great. So I just wanted to provide a few kind of excerpts from the protocol to just show you some things that we've added in. And so like we were just talking about in terms of the ratings, they emphasize level of implementation. And so that's how many students are impacted or how many programs are impacted, those sorts of measures. But the reality is you may be more interested in this kind of quality of assessment. We don't have, so for guided pathways in particular, there aren't these pre-made programs that are being implemented there. So it's not that we have a clear ideal and colleges are assessing against that ideal. So this is a bit fuzzy to figure out as well, just because it's not an initiative, it's a framework. And so, but there are, we've come up with some sample indicators that you may use, and they're across the 4 areas to make some assessment of quality. And so it's a little more than is the system in place. It gets a bit more to kind of how the pieces operate together. And so in this example for area 3, you could think about area 3 emphasizes advising over the course of a program, progress monitoring. And so a college could say, yes, all of our students are in a DegreeWorks software system, but we would wonder, like, who is able to access that information? Do all the students have a plan that's built out in that system? Does that plan have the information that they need? Who's able to manipulate that plan? And are those plans being used to schedule courses, which is kind of like that's what we believe is one of the most useful ways that a system can really be implemented so that the college is being responsive to the courses that students need term by term. And so these are just some items that they're kind of more for the back of your head while you're in the call, but if it sounds like there's something that the college is really making progress in an area, you might want to dig into some of these to find out whether these things are happening.
Any questions on this? We're going to come back, I think, and talk a little bit more in detail on all of these. So we're just kind of going through a short overview now.
Sure. And so we've also included in the protocol what we're calling pre-call tasks. And so there's a list of about 6 to 8 tasks for each area. And these are just items that you can look into. The college may have noted it on their scale of adoption. But if they didn't, you can also go to their website and typically get a good sense of whether these different practices are in place. But you want to be a little bit selective about which ones you're checking, just because it can get really overwhelming to both try to seek out all of this information and then try to make sense of all of this information, especially if it looks different on different college websites. But this can serve to confirm some things that folks have written in the scale of adoption, and can really help you get into deeper conversations. If you know what some of their changes are to their program maps, because you've looked at their program maps, you can have a little more of a detailed conversation about how they got to a particular format, for example. And so these are just a sample of the tasks that we identified in area 1, and we have them for all the different areas in the protocol. And so just for our own, just as I said in the beginning, we've been developing various call protocols for different projects that we've been working on with different partners. And so we're always interested to see what colleges and systems and student success centers are doing with these materials. The scale of adoption itself is meant to be edited. You all have been editing it in some ways, like to a greater regard or greater extent than a lot of states that we've worked with. And to the same token, we're interested in how people are modifying different call protocols for your own purposes. And we hope that it can be a collaborative, useful tool for folks.
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting is that we have started and already conducted a few of the calls for the DevEd practices, SOAA, that I put together and had vetted with Hannah a little bit earlier in the summer. And looking at the financial stability SOAA as well, it's interesting because you know, you can see the connections between the areas on the guided pathways SOA and these more detailed areas. And one of the things I'm kind of looking forward to, and some of you on the call are going to be part of this, we're going to be doing mega calls where we do all three of these instruments. And we're going to go, you know, we're going to begin with My Best and then developmental education, and then we'll circle back to the general protocol for guided pathways. So I'm really interested to see how much the conversation on the first two ends up actually really connecting directly with the guided pathways conversation. And we certainly will see that in the two colleges that have set up mega calls. But I'm intrigued, even as we do the standalone calls, in how those conversations will draw together. And so even if you are, although this protocol that CCRC is sharing, that Amy's sharing with us, is specific to the guided pathways scale of adoption assessment, you should look at it in terms of, you know, this idea of doing pre-work. What can you find out from the website? How can you dig into implementation quality? Can be applied to the other ones as well. So I think we wanted to go back and talk, like have a little bit more general conversation and let the mentors weigh in on a couple of these. And I think the first one was the purpose, right, Amy?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. So I'll go back to that slide. And I think it's my fault that the light text, because I messed up your slides when I copied them. I was working too fast. I apologize. But actually, I can pull up the ones. Well, I maybe I can pull up the better looking slides and we can just start talking anyway. What questions or thoughts do you guys have about the purpose here? And anybody who's been on a call, even though it's not a guided pathways call, is welcome to weigh in with their thoughts and feelings about that as well.
This is Nathan Vensky. I was just going to say, I think having meetings like this is good, not only for us as mentors, but also for us as...
Oh, we're losing you, Nathan.
We lost him.
We lost Nathan. Yeah, you're very garbled. I'm sorry.
I think, you know, talking about the form and that it could move from one time. I knew you would. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
I'm going to think it'd be helpful for us.
We might have to come back to you because you're not. Yeah, go ahead and just drop your some remarks into the chat if you'd like. Anybody else want to add something from their perspective? We promise we won't cut off your mic like we did Nathan's.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I think I kind of get what part of what I heard from Nathan, what he was going for is that there's a benefit also on the side of being in the call that, like, I've heard so I've been on a few with Jenny this week for developmental ed, and I've heard a few things that, you know, like that other schools are doing that I think could be interesting for us as well. You know, that like I from that aspect that I'm like, oh, like, you know, even as functioning as a mentor, that I still am like, oh, well, there's some things I haven't thought of that I can freely steal myself. So there's some benefit from both sides of that. And this also reminded me of this meme I saw with it's like Zoom meetings are like a seance. Like, can you hear me? Are you here?
Yes, that's very good. Very good. Other thoughts on the purpose of the meeting, or how do you think, or the purpose of the call, and then how do you think that the purpose of the call and the purpose of the SOA are working together? Like, from the point of view of the college, what's the purpose of the call?
For me, this is Beverly Stamber, OCC. For me, because we did the the first part of Guided Pathways, when I had another colleague working with me, as we began to look at the work and the self-assessment, it was very obvious to us as an institution that we were working within our own confines, our own circle. And using this tool assisted us with asking ourselves questions that those individuals within the college would not have thought of asking, or they were working within their own area. So the tool and the conversations has been most beneficial, as well as allowing us to make it a part of our strategic plan so we could put some teeth to the work. Because we do this type of work in isolation with some of our committees, but having this particular forum and having these conversations and looking at it from an umbrella part really assisted the institution, OCC, in looking at ways in which we can best provide what our students are looking for and not necessarily what faculty and other individuals are looking at from that perspective. So it has been a wonderful document for me, and it's given us some direction and assistance as well.
Jenny, one thing we've done it on some calls that we've done with colleges is include a question in the beginning, just asking them like if there was something in particular that they wanted to make sure that we talked about during the call, maybe some area like they had questions about, just to make sure we got to it, or some guidance they were looking for. So just kind of asking that up front can kind of help too, just to like, because sometimes, we get to the end and we're like, oh crap, we didn't get to this part of the call. This can kind of help you make sure that like, okay, we'll make sure that we get to talk about advising or whatever it is.
Good tip. Yes, thank you. Other thoughts or questions about the purpose?
I guess I would just say that I appreciated the SOAA because it always has given us like our framework, right? For like, what are our benchmarks? What are we looking to accomplish? And it kind of forces you to be very honest about where you are and where you're going. And then pairing that with a call, it sometimes just is nice to have a neutral third party to address some of the things that are on your SOAA that maybe you have felt internally that you wanted to emphasize on your campus, but maybe it just wasn't being called out in the same way. So I have always appreciated that, like that third party voice that kind of says, but what about this piece? It seems like we're not making progress there, or have you thought about this piece? So I've appreciated it for that.
Thanks, Lindsay.
And Jenny,
I would add,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, from a college perspective, that we have to remember that we are a part of the system, and what works, just for us, we have to make sure that it works, just outside of the college, because the students are going to transfer and go to other places. So that third party intervention, just would be useful in this respect as well.
Absolutely.
Jenny, this is Sheila. I was going to add, for me, it's really in that second question about the connections between your center's initiatives, our own initiatives, but, all kind of up and down our institutions. But it's interesting because I was also on a call earlier today, which had nothing to do with Guided Pathways, but it came up, and it was a few of us from different states. And in some ways, I think people in different institutions feel that this initiative was maybe forced on them in a way that we didn't really have here in Michigan. And I could speak to that in a different day about my own experience as far as what people mean by that. But I do think, bringing this all together is where you see, like just that you said, the way we could look at all the SOAs and relate it back to Guided Pathways and how this does touch so much of our institutions and the work we do for our students. So I think there's a lot of value with the SOA in that.
Only because it relates, I'm going to tag onto that. I was really feeling worried for you guys about these mega calls, but I think that what I'm hearing from a lot of our colleges is that they're at a point with Guided Pathways where they're recognizing the integration of that effort with all of the other work that's being done. And so I think you're going to have some really natural building conversations during those mega calls. I think people might be a little stressed about having to complete the 3 different SOAs, but being able to have the conversation all together, I actually think is going to be really valuable for everybody that participates.
Yeah, and for the kind of context for our friends from CCRC, we're doing, colleges have kind of three different choices. One is to just do a guided pathways SOA call by themselves, in which we've allotted an hour and a half for. One is to do the My Best financial stability SOA and the guided pathways at the same time. Well, not in the same call. And then one is to do all three of them at once. And so so if they choose to do the guided pathways alone and they have also completed the other two, they'll have separate calls. Typically colleges that are doing that just have very different teams working on the initiatives, which I think will be interesting to see how the conversations relate to each other. And I think when we start getting into that, and we're talked to, like if I'm talking to a college where I already did their DevEd SOA and now we're doing their guided pathway SOA, I'm going to ask if they're different people, what they know about the other initiative. And I think Precious is unfortunately not able to be with us today. She was going to be, but since her regrets, she had her son fell down and had to get stitches. So that was, so she's having to miss this call today, but that's something she and I are going to talk about as well, that how we can make sure that we call attention to the fact that these initiatives are related and these practices are related and reinforce each other. Do people have any particular questions about areas of the SOA as we kind of get ready and gear up to do more calls? I know some people have already started doing calls, and I'm so appreciative, of the Sean and Nathan and Jeremy who have jumped in and gotten started with this. And we've been having some fun. But any questions or concerns that people have while we've got the pros on the line here?
Jenny, I have a clarification question. Just want to ask, aside from the follow-up questions that could come up at the validation call meeting, do you provide, the colleges with the key questions in advance so they can prepare for the meeting, or we assume that they're already aware, just of what we're going to discuss?
So I have not provided the protocol to the colleges. I think it's my personal bias that I like to surprise them. I mean, a little bit, I don't want to shock them, but I think that particularly in the guided pathways calls, many of the people who will be doing the call will have actually participated in at least one, maybe a couple of other calls. So they'll be familiar, but it also helps me to be responsive to what I'm hearing from them in terms of, skipping questions or moving around. And so that's why I don't think we usually don't provide them with the protocol. But just kind of keep it to the side. I just kind of keep it to the side when I go through it. And if you've been on the call with me, I wrote my own protocol, which is very short, and I oftentimes don't even follow it. So for the DevEd one. But this one, we will be going a little bit more, these will be a little bit more formal since we do have the protocol. We'll follow it a little bit better. Other questions or thoughts? Let's see, what were the other slides that we were going to talk about? I love the pre-call tasks, and I would encourage people to really dig into those. Where's that? This one's here. As we start to get into the guided pathways, because you really can find out a lot. And, I think it'll be interesting to see when we first did the calls, we focused a lot on the mapping area, and we were like, half an hour into the call at least before we left that area. And I'm interested to see now if we're able to move more quickly through that, because colleges have been spending so much time, and I really appreciate the way that you've laid out here how we can kind of just pre-check it and say, yeah, we've looked, and we see that all of these things are happening on your website. So is this, you know, are you happy with that? Is that working out well for students, and where do you still want to work? And then you're done with the mapping section, maybe, if they've done the work. If they have not, we may need to talk more about it.
I think we've found that that's the case, Jenny. And like when we were doing calls with colleges who we've talked to, who have been doing this work for a while, it's like, okay, we see you have this, we see you have meta majors, they look great. We see you've got some maps, look good. And then kind of quickly transition into talking about like, how are you using the meta majors for onboarding or orientation or first year, like that sort of thing. So it's less about like creating them and that process and more about like, okay, how are you using them?
Yes. All right, I'm gonna switch back to the other, my other slideshow just quickly, because I did want to take a few minutes while I have you all on the line to talk about how we're going to follow up as mentors after the calls. So with this round of calls, largely we will go ahead and I will mostly lead the calls. Some of you who I know have had more experience, I may connect with you beforehand to see if you'd be comfortable leading certain areas of the call, things like that. But I don't want to have anybody feel like they were thrown into the deep end. If they're, you know, if you're nervous, you could feel free to let me know. But what we're going to do next, and I guess we've kind of talked about the contextualization with the other two scale of adoption. We don't have there's not quite as detailed directions, but I'll leave it to you. I know you all will have your own creative ways of kind of looking, how do you integrate pre-work? What do you think, you know, can you find out anything from the website? These other ones, it's a little bit harder to find out. Lots of times colleges don't include a lot of information about their dev ed practices on their website. It's not that easy to find, but sometimes you can. I think the financial stability and the kind of innovative supports, colleges probably will be showing those more in terms of the pre-work tasks. So I want to show, but what I want to do is talk to you about the follow-up, and I'm gonna go here, and I decided not to add it to my slide, I see, so I'm going to show you as part of our mentoring grant, round 2 with Jobs for the Future, we have been asked to report work plans for participating colleges. Now we're going to report these work plans for participating colleges with de-identified data so that they will see what the plan is. They will not see what college has the plan, so that we do not accidentally end up in any kind of national publication where it says, you know, Northwestern Michigan College plans to get its act together finally on developmental math or something.
Just maybe, Jenny, just maybe.
Just maybe. But this is the way that I am anticipating that we will kind of track these, and I'll show you an example. So we have all of these kind of focus areas. We've got the developmental, we've got the financial stability, we've got guided pathways, and then we will have some transfer pathway focus things coming up. And you know, this might not be the last SOA you ever see. So, but I'll show you in the Dev Ed kind of what it's looking at, and I've been trying to pull out. Well, let me go back to the summary. So, I will note, like, you know, the college says they're going to focus on English, or they're going to focus on IRW, and at the end we'll just have a count. That'll make it easy to do a rough. You know, we have 8 colleges who are working on this. When, you know, what year is the SOAA that we're working with, and when have the check-in calls happened. And then what I did is, like in one of our first calls, which was with Jackson, I went through and pulled out 2 goals from their SOAA. So these are the things that they're they identified as things that they were focused on or interested in. And one of them was that they're, they have a leadership transition in foundation studies with Char's retirement. And then I'm pushing on them to develop a brief on their auditing process that they use to adjust their prerequisites. And so then what we will do is have the mentors who are on the call, one or, if there's two mentors, and I'll talk with everybody after, kind of when we get to the end of this call process, then I'll go back and say, because people sometimes are assuming that the mentor that's on the call with them is going to be their mentor forever and ever. And that may be the case, but not everybody is able to make calls at a certain times, and some people will end up being very overrepresented in terms of being mentors for colleges. So we may shuffle some of that. But the idea is to go for a mentor to contact the college and say, hey, let's say we're doing this maybe in January, mid-January. Hey, you said on your call when we talked to you in October that you were working on these two things. How's it going? Can I help you? Or can I get somebody else to help you if the area is not your expertise? We're going to try to match people with goals in so much as possible. And then, you would take some notes on that call, and then they would come back in here with this, you'd enter them here in this update, like, for example, something that would not be happening at Jackson. Everything is falling apart. We're not doing any of this anymore. Or things are going along fine. We've appointed new committee leads. Actually, they're actually kind of far along in this, so that's a difficult one to choose, but I just happen to have theirs entered. Or we've met to talk about the brief with Jenny. We gave her an outline, something like that. And just quickly, these will just be kind of quick updates, and this is going to just give us a chance to see what's going on. This helps, as Katie and I bring the mentors into this work, it's kind of an intention to expand our capacity. So this is going to help if you are in contact with the colleges, and then this is going to help you kind of report to us so that, like, I don't have to talk to every college every time, even though I love talking to colleges. But I think that you guys will love it as well, because it's been one of the most rewarding things I think that I've done since I've been at the Center for Student Success, is to start doing these calls. So I wanted to show you that. Does anybody have any questions about the work plans or how this is going to go? I'll translate this into a Google Doc, so you'll be able to enter directly into the spreadsheet. PJ Day at virtual school. All right, Katie. Already.
I know. It's Spirit
Already
Week,
PJ Day.
which I hate Spirit Week in real school, but in virtual school, it's like, what's the point? No, I mean, I love it. You should do it, kids.
Thoughts or questions or insights from mentors on the call?
Jenny, are they all scheduled? Are all of the SOAs scheduled, or how far along are you with that?
All of the SOAs are now scheduled except one for the DE work. We are further behind, and actually I have to count because of the mega calls and the combined calls. One of the things I'm trying to do is kind of get into my spreadsheet for call scheduling, like how many calls are not yet scheduled. For my best, I think less. So that's the sliding scale. I think we have 5 or 6 guided pathways calls scheduled. Mentor colleges are all supposed to do them. We should have 14 who are going to do them for sure. And a couple of others who are not mentor circle colleges who have said that they want to do them. And so I think we'll probably have 16 or 17. I'm trying to encourage everybody to do one because all the colleges have been doing guided pathways in one way or another. And this is going to give us a good sense of where we are as a state as we're kind of at this inflection process with the Guided Pathways Institute.
Hey, Jenny, I just want to say, having been a mentor for not very long, but having done one of the calls already last week, I appreciate the context and the additional insight that being on the other side of the conversation affords. I've always, and no offense to you or everyone else here, I always get the short straw, and I'm the one that has to fill out the SOAA stuff. So I've always been like, oh my God, another 4 hours of doing this. And I think we a lot of the time get tunnel vision on the institutional end, and we're filling it out so that we can check the box and that we can tell our president or our leadership, yep, we filled that out, we did everything. And we fail to take the time to actually let it show us the things that we're doing well, or what we're not doing well, and where we came from and where we're going. So I appreciate the fact that it kind of refocused at least my intentions when I'm filling it out on the institutional end too.
That's a great testament, Jeremy. Thank you. Well, if nobody has any other questions, I'm in the fortunate position of being able to give you back 5 minutes of your Monday. 5 whole minutes. What can you get done in 5 minutes? But thank you very much. I appreciate you spending this time. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I will respond to them. And I look forward to seeing you all on calls, and I'll be sending another round of reminders to sign up if you can to participate in a call. And hopefully, for those of you who haven't yet, this conversation will make you feel more comfortable. So thank you very much, and have a good afternoon.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Great to see everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.